His name is Charlie Fox. He heads Sift Creative, which is the preeminent place for all sorts of production when it comes to the tennis world, the ATP, WTA, Tennis Channel, the list goes on. Great content comes from his production team. They're based out of California. And we're going to look at his career in Charlie and what he's done and the mold that he has been able to develop inside the tennis world and how he is flourishing as far as what he's doing from a production standpoint as well. I'm Bryan Fenley. I'm a commentator on the Challenger Tour for the USTA, also a national anchor at Fox Sports Radio. So, Charlie, you are on the On to Something podcast, and you certainly are on to something here with what you've got. And the travel must be insane. In a regular year, you're all over the country, all over the world. Regularly, how many airline miles in, say, a year are you racking up from all the shoots you're doing all over the world?
It has come down a bit over the years. Probably post-pandemic, it's definitely come down a bit. I've also been more on the business front in the last year, so haven't been doing as many tournaments as I have in the past, but yeah, I've had some years of about 120,000 miles or so in a year. Some pretty good mileage in there. Used to do about 18 to 20 tennis tournaments around the world a year. So North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, some pretty heavy airline miles in there.
Yeah. So, and before you got to where you are, you were an intern at Tennis Channel and you did some odd jobs while you were there. What was an example of an odd job before you became what you are today? The humble beginnings of the Charlie Fox trying to find his way in the tennis industry.
Yeah, that was a fun time. I worked at the Tennis Channel Open back at it was in Las Vegas. And there was a guy, his name is Brad Faulkner, really great guy, helped bring me in, took me under his wing. And I was a little gopher for him. He had me transcribe some interviews. I remember that was actually the last tour. The tour was trying to do round robin events at the time. So that was the last round robin tournament ever because of it ended up becoming, they had a bit of a controversy with James Blake and Del Potro and the amount of games that need to be won. But I got sent in when Blake was not so happy about who was going to move on. And I went in to go listen in to hear what was being said and write down some things and be like, hey, I think he doesn't seem very happy about what's going on over there. That was about the best I could come back with, but it was an awesome experience just being up close. Yeah, it was definitely, that was my first intro into working in tennis. And yeah, actually I have a tennis background in the family. So I actually been around the game pretty much since childhood.
What formulated, and we're joined by Charlie Fox, he heads Sift Creative, I'm Bryan Fenley. What formulated the idea behind you taking over a production company and having tentacles all over the world and being able to do this at such a high level from a tennis standpoint, where you're having the ATP bring you on and other circuits and other professional entities, where you go from that Tennis Channel intern to develop what has become just this huge juggernaut in the production space?
I think juggernaut might be a bit strong, but I will appreciate it if you. I'll take it. But yes. Thank you. Yes. But yeah, just hard work and a lot of time over the years. Started as kind of an intern, a runner, producer with the ATP, built relationships and kind of grew, earned the stripes over the years and kind of got the trust from players, agents, and also the tour, where a couple of years ago they were willing to give me a shot to help take on their content. And we've luckily been able to grow and actually grow our role with them over the years. And it's been been a lot of learning. Frankly, I was an accounting major in college, so I can do a pretty mean spreadsheet on Excel, but that's about the most that I've used my accounting. But it's been a great experience, and yeah, I mean, just a lot of time, late nights, and kind of grinding on the road, kind of to get to this point. But I mean, so much of it has just been relationships and just trying to keep a certain level of, trying to keep high level production with everything we've done, from small videos to some of the larger kind of documentaries and long form pieces that we've done.
So even though you were studying accounting, I look at your videos and I see just this artistic acumen that must be something that you've had within you since you were young, because it seems so natural to you. So how did you channel in that artistic, I would even say, and you're going to be humble here, you're going to probably shake your head, but an artistic genius for, like, if anybody watches the videos and what you do, how did you channel in that side of you? Because it's a lot different than somebody who's punching numbers and doing math and doing accounting.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, I mean, I loved tennis, and that was the one thing, is like, I had that love of it, and I was watching anything I could on, watching ESPN and watching kind of the teasers before matches. And I remember there was a documentary years ago that they did on the World Tour finals back in the day with, I think it was like 2003, 2004. And I remember I used to watch, had like a little DVD of it that I used to just watch all the time. Absolutely loved loved that. I loved the behind the scenes, and like, as a big tennis fan back then, I just used to love being on the other side of the rope. And I always just thought, like, if I had an opportunity and an ability to ever do something like that, I would love to kind of, I knew, I guess, frankly, what a tennis fan loved, what they liked. And so a lot of it was just watching content and getting in on that front. And then, frankly, the content has gotten a lot better, but early on it was a lot of learning and making some mistakes, or just playing safer with the content. And as the time has gone on, just getting more comfortable, and so much has just come down to reps and just putting in the time and getting comfortable with that storytelling, and trying to be a little different kind of every year, and not getting too comfortable with the same pieces and kind of the same narrative. Because when I first was working on tour, the one thing is, every year you're going to the same tournaments, interviewing the same players. And so it actually forces you to be creative, because you're talking to John Isner for the 6th time in the year. And it's like, what other angle is there with John? What's another angle with these guys that I can't talk to them. Hey, what do you like about playing this tournament in Atlanta? Yeah. It's like, we've asked this question for 4 straight years. Like, okay, well, what's another angle to go from there? And so after a couple of years, I mean, I remember and I've told our producers, like, I stopped even asking the question of, hey, you're in Atlanta here, like, what do you like about coming here? Because it was the same answer every time. So it was like, when I went to a tournament, I stopped even asking just the go-to question about, like, hey, we're here. So, it just, for me, it was always about pushing myself and just trying to just keep pushing it further, because I knew, as for a fan, you were not going to want to watch the same things. And personally, I like pushing myself. And I think that for me is one of the biggest things, is just trying to keep trying to push myself forward. And in turn, hopefully the content comes with that.
Yeah. There's no complacency with Charlie Fox's game, and you're always challenging yourself to obviously fine tune and sharpen the product. And that is evident by what everybody is seeing. And part of taking your game as someone who's in charge of a production company to the next level is the different angles that you're able to throw in there with content and try new things. And one thing that you've done such a great job of is, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you've done. What is an example or an athlete you've worked with where you learned something about them behind the scenes that perhaps they had never shared before, that they wanted to get out there for the world to see, and ultimately made your job that much more fulfilling, that much more rewarding?
That's a tough question. I don't know. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of a specific example of somebody maybe giving us special access in that front. But I would say I've been very lucky with all the stuff we've done with the ATP, that we get access and get to levels that maybe another network or another company wouldn't. And that's fully because they've given us, this access. But for me, even just like the off seasons, I've done probably 10, 15 different players and their off seasons, and or I went down to Tandil 3 years ago and did a piece with Del Potro in his hometown while he was coming back from his knee injury, which he hurt again not long after he came back. But those sort of pieces I absolutely love, because you get to see just a side of the players that they're much more relaxed. There's not any other media there. They're not stressed out about a tournament, and you can really see the work and the hard yards that go into being a professional tennis player. I see it on site, and you see they're regimented, and their diet, and they have their teams and everything like that. But I mean, I remember one year we did Shapovalov one year in Bradenton, and it was like we showed up at his house where he was staying at 7 a.m. He was already up stretching with his trainer. Like he had woken up at 6 or 6:30, did a gym session before practice, did a practice, then another gym session, then another practice. And then he finished the night with like on-court conditioning and gym. And it was like, we were toasted at the end of the day, filming it, just being kind of having to be on the whole time. But then it's like, you're looking at this guy going, this guy's actually the one burning calories and working the whole time. And it just, for me, at least, that gave even more appreciation for what these guys do. And so, I mean, I guess it wasn't an angle, so to speak, that nobody could see. But for me, just those off seasons and those times are my favorite, and kind of the ones that really make me appreciate, everything that these guys do to perform out there on court. Because you watch a match and it's 3, 4, 5 hours, and you're not really taking in, like, it's physical. It's tough, but to get to the physical fitness and capacity to play at that level and for that long, it's years of training and consistency to get to that level, which I knew about it, but seeing it is a whole nother beast.
Charlie Fox is with us, Sift Creative. I'm Bryan Fenley. It's a whole other beast, and it also should be a moment for others to gain appreciation of you when they think of what you need to do in a photo shoot. You talked about it. You might not be Shapovalov running lines, doing sprints, and hitting 140 mile an hour serves, but you are out there, for hours, making sure you capture the moment. And even if it's for Del Potro, you are out there on the front lines thinking and trying to figure out where's the best look at a shot, and how do I capture it artistically the way I'm hoping for, and a way to please those around you. So from someone like yourself, who had mentioned that, taking your words, I want the interviewee, the tennis athlete, to be stress-free when I'm around them, because you've developed those relationships, and when they're comfortable, they're going to say great things. What are you like when you're conducting a photo shoot? Because I can't imagine that your brain is going so quickly with racing thoughts to make sure you hit this, you hit that. So if I were to watch you, like if there was a photo shoot or a production company filming you as you are filming the tennis, what are we seeing from you?
Yeah, I mean, I do try to keep it light. I mean, one thing, even when it's serious, you can kind of feel that. And there is a lot of just feeling the moment. You can tell when a guy is locked in and intense. I'm not getting in there unless the opportunity is right. And so I think that does come with time and comfort, where a player will like once a player trusts you and knows that like you do an off season with them or you do these times and they realize you're not just going to be asking them a question when they're in the middle of like something very, very intense or serious, but it's really picking your moments and picking your spots. I like to make jokes and it's just part of who I am, but by using some humor and just connecting with people, I think that tends to keep things a little looser in times when, yeah, people are in more of a relaxed mood. And then when things get intense, it's just about recognizing those moments and trying to find your spots to be like, okay, the guy's breathing hard, he's taking a quick break, like, let's ask how that's going. And so it's, we did an off season with Dominic Thiem, and the guy works so hard and he's so intense. And it's like, you're trying to find your moment, not to ruin what he's doing, because he's probably not going to want to be interrupted in the middle of full-on sprints, but he's got about a 90-second recovery. And it's just about picking those moments to be like, okay, I'll ask this question here. After this next set, we can touch more on, and then talking to their team and their trainers, like, is he going to have a window? Okay, he's taking a 3-minute recovery after this next one. Okay, I could ask probably 3 questions here. And so, the player doesn't necessarily realize that we're kind of across all of this, but from our end, it's just about picking those moments with those, especially those off season and those specialty shoots, and keeping it light. I'd say those are the 2 things, is just like reading the room and trying to keep everybody loose and happy and just not overstepping the boundaries.
What's the longest you've ever worked on a single project?
That's a good question. I mean, most of our stuff is relatively quick turnaround. So we've done, a lot of it turns into the editing side of it. Like we did a documentary with Milan in 2019. The tour kind of let us have free reign a bit to film at the Next Gen Finals. So yeah, it was like the 2019 Next Gen Finals in Milan. And we got to film in the locker rooms after the guys lost. We were in there pre-match. And so we cut about an hour and 20-minute documentary. And so that was about 10 days of pretty hard work on the ground. And then we spent about a month and a half, like full on days, just with a couple of our editors and just grinding it out. And that was the most work came in the post-production, where you have so much stuff and you want to show it all. And you're like, no one wants to watch something for 3.5 hours. So, just trying to take something like that and cut it down. An hour 20 might have been too long anyways, but it's also, it's trying to pick those spots. And so sometimes for me, the production on the ground is a little more second nature at this point, but the post-production is where kind of the story and where you can really hook an audience in. And that's where, even if a shoot goes great, if it's way too long, or if you're not quite finding those moments, you're going to lose the audience. And so that project was, probably a month and a half, 2 months by the end of it in total. And that was pretty full on.
What is the most flattering remark a player that you've done a piece on, or anybody that works at the tour level, has said about your work?
I just, doing any of these sort of pieces we do, and a player just says, thank you, appreciate it. You see them at the next event and they're like, oh, I love that piece. Like, it was so cool. Like, these guys are popular enough and they've seen enough pieces that I don't think that our work is so special that it's something they've never seen before. But the fact that we don't really get too much in their hair, and they're probably not quite sure what they're going to see when they see a final piece, and they see the final piece and go like, wow, you guys got a lot in there. I didn't realize you guys got all that. Like, those are the things that I love. And for me, when the player is very happy afterwards, our job, and the viewers are happy, like, that's a job well done.
What makes you the happiest with what you do, and the passion that you have for this? You said it started early on. How young were you when you knew that this is the route you wanted to take with your career and your life?
It was, I mean, going into college, I didn't quite know. It was more out of college. I did some interning and kind of fell into the producing side of it. But as a tennis fan, probably about 12, I got really into the sport. My dad actually played before the game was open. So he was a professional tennis player before there was professional tennis. So played in the 60s and when there was no money in the game. And so he coached college tennis for 19 years and is a sports psychologist still in the game. So I've been around it my whole life, but he frankly didn't want to push me into it too much because he saw so many people burn out in terms of playing and all of that. So I came into it relatively late for a player, but I was always into it more on the playing side. I never thought I would be working on it on a production or overview side, but just not good enough to be a professional tennis player. But like as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, I didn't want to work in tennis. I was just like, I want to be a pro tennis player like anyone else. But when you're, 100 in Southern California, you've got quite a ways to go to, slightly unrealistic at the time, thinking that, maybe there's a shot there.
I mean, 100's not that bad considering how much talent is there. Your dad, a mentor for you. What are you like, Charlie, as a leader?
I like to listen a lot. I like to enable our team, and I like to be a sounding board for people that work, for us, with us, around us. Like if people have issues, I like to be kind of we're a fully remote production company, so open door policy is, not quite what it is, but it's an open Zoom policy. It's an open call policy. And, with our team, I like to check in a lot and just make sure that all is going well. And then I like to just bring in very creative, hardworking people. And I don't like to overstep and overproduce at times. Like for me, if we hire good people and bring in hungry, motivated people, and they learn the content, there's a bit of a learning curve, obviously, if you don't work in tennis, but just kind of nurturing that side of it. But then once they're kind of in the flow, just letting them run a little bit more and then just being there. Okay, let's do it a little differently this way, or this cut wasn't great, but from other than that, I don't like to overstep and get too deep in there unless a cut requires it. But luckily everyone that works with us is pretty creative, and they know the biggest thing I think is they know they always can reach out, and if they're having an issue, I'm always available. And like I said, I do like to check in quite often just to make sure, there are no issues.
So you sound like a boss that a lot of people would enjoy working for. Charlie, my last question for you. What sets your production company apart from any others who are trying to navigate through the tennis space? Like, what do you guys, and I know you're a very humble person as you are, but the talent speaks for itself, but what do you do as a production company that you think is unique and stands out among other companies or that are trying to encapsulate what tennis is like in an artistic form?
I mean, for me, it's keeping our employees happy and making sure they're always happy when they're working. I mean, yeah, there's times we're grinding, and it's a bit showing appreciation as well when things are, there's times we have to work Saturday, Sunday, or you're working till 1, 2 in the morning at times, and there's just no way around that. So I do feel like just showing appreciation, not just showing, but actually I feel appreciation when someone else is willing to be in the trenches is huge. But it's also, for me, the employees and also the customer, and whether that's the ATP or whether that's a one-off shoot or the WTA or the Hall of Fame, it's making sure that whoever we're working with is always happy. And so we stop at nothing to make sure we have very high attention to detail. Like our early cuts, there aren't mistakes, there aren't a lot of issues, and we don't complain. We don't go back when a client has 10, 15, 20 versions of a cut. We keep working on it, and we'll just, no problem. Okay. Like we'll give our feedback, we'll give our thoughts, but if they want to make that many changes, we're there for them, and we're there to make sure that every single thing that goes out our doors, from a 10-second Instagram reel that might be, or a quick little cut that might be seen by a couple people, to like a full documentary, for me and our team, we bring the same level of detail and attention and hard work on every single one of those pieces. And for me, that's why we've grown, and that's why we've been able to stay kind of in this industry, is just because we really never phone it in. And that's something that I really preach to our team, and I preach daily, is just like, there is no good enough. It's always like, let's make sure, every cut is different, but let's make sure we're doing the best we can on absolutely every piece of content. And if the customers are happy, the employees are happy, and the content doesn't have issues in it, and you're pushing yourself creatively, good things tend to happen.
I should have recorded all this, because if I did and I put it in a book, I think it would be a New York Times bestseller. But maybe that's for another time. That later on in your career.
I'll let you say it. I'm not sure I necessarily agree, but I'm not the first person to ever say this. But I do believe in it, and it's it's the results speak for themselves for itself, and it's just I've. You can see it at all levels, that when you really take the time and the energy, and you never phone that in, you'll see the results in that, in production. That's in anything, I'm sure, with you and with commentating, you see the same thing. It's like, if you're calling a match and you're kind of like going to phone in every couple matches, like, you're not going to be working very long. So it doesn't matter if you're doing a Wimbledon final, or you're working a challenger, or you're working a 250. If you bring in that same passion and energy every time you're working, good things will follow. Yeah, well, it obviously has for you. I'm so happy for your success. I admire your work and what your company is doing. Professional, cutting edge, atop of his game. That is Charlie Fox, and what he is doing with Sift Creative, and how they have been the hub for all things tennis content, predominantly with the ATP. I encourage everybody to check out their work with the ATP. They are all over the globe, and they are coming to a living room near you with their content. Charlie, I'm Bryan Fenley. It's been an honor. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this. Thanks so much for having me. That was a lot of fun. Glad we finally got a chance to connect here.